What is going on, guys? Rewinds here, and in this video I'm going to be bringing you guys the full spoilers for Boruto Manga Chapter 72. So I'm assuming this is going to be a pretty long video because it seems like we have two long parts of this whole summary for the chapter. And shout out to Abdul Zoldik for getting these out to us, of course. I don't know where the Boruto community would be in terms of all these spoilers without his help, so big shout out to him. So we're gonna have a look at this together. I'm gonna read it with you guys and react as I usually do, and it's nice to have these back because we didn't have a chapter last month, so I am excited to read this. So it says Boruto Chapter 72 Bulletin Summary Part 1, and there is a Part 2 as well, like I said. So let's look at this first part. I don't know if you guys can see that too well, but I'm going to try my best to read it as clear as I can for you guys, in case you cannot read it from the VOD video. So, the chapter is titled Small and Useful. So the chapter begins with Kawaki and Shikamaru exchanging dialogues. Kawaki says, "You don't know anything, do you? I'm saying that the restoration of my karma was something that he did on his own." Shikamaru suggests to Kawaki that Amado might have some other agenda. However, Kawaki dismisses Shikamaru's point and considers Amado to be a dead man. Naruto senses a difference in Kawaki's way of talking, as if Amado's loss means nothing to him. Naruto says, "Stop it, Kawaki. Don't talk like that." The conversation between Kawaki and Shikamaru begins to get heated. Kawaki insinuates that Shikamaru must be pleased about Amado's sudden disappearance. Shikamaru, upon hearing this, begins to show anger towards Kawaki. Naruto then steps in and separates the two. "Hey Kawaki, quit screwing around already." So it seems like, a little skirmish to start off the chapter, and Naruto gets in the way. As Naruto says that, a Genin shinobi enters the room, informing Shikamaru that there is an important call for him, and it's from Amado. Shikamaru, in a surprised and shocked state, says, "What?" The panel switches to Amado, who is talking on the phone with Shikamaru. Amado seems to be at a public resort near the land of snow. Ida and Damon's outfit change tells us that the weather is extremely cold. Amado tells Shikamaru about his wound, which was inflicted by Code. Amado says, "I am so glad to hear your voice again, Shikamaru." Ida is wearing a massive furry coat, which only seems to cover the top half of her body. Damon is also wearing a coat and enjoying a piggyback ride from Ida. Shikamaru begins to question Amado. Shikamaru says, "I can't believe it. What happened there?" Amado informs Shikamaru of their current location and further states that it might take them 3 to 4 days to return back to Konoha. As Amado is updating Shikamaru on the situation, Shikamaru inquires about the whereabouts of Code. Amado tells Shikamaru that Ida, along with Damon, have cut ties with Code and won't be helping him anymore. Amado says, "Speaking about Code, Ida has cut ties with Code and will no longer help him." Shikamaru says, "What did you just say? What the hell did you do? If what you are telling me is true, that's good news." Amado then reiterates that Ida is no longer with Code and will join Konoha. Amado suggests that it was easier to convince Ida after Shikamaru made the original proposal to Ida, which I think goes back to chapter 69, I believe. So, does seem like we're going to be getting a bit more with them perhaps in the next chapter. I don't think they're gonna travel back to the village in this chapter, and it'll be interesting to see how the interaction goes with all the others, such as Naruto, maybe Sasuke, maybe even Boruto, and Kawaki as well. Another quick note I want to point out is that I know some people probably aren't gonna like the technology thing with Amado, but times have changed, so it makes a lot of sense that he would just use a phone now at this point to contact them rather than having a whole chapter of surprises and stuff. Even though that would have been cool, I think at least for a little bit, if Amado just popped up with Damon and Ida out of nowhere. But, we got technology now here. To the next part of the summary, Shikamaru then recalls there being one more ally of Code, which is referring to Damon, and he says, wait, I'm certain that Code had another powerful ally besides Ida. What happened to him? Amado is somewhat surprised to find out that Shikamaru already knew about Damon. Amado says, what the hell? You already knew about Damon? Shikamaru says, Damon? He seems scared even listening at Damon's name. He says, who is that? Shikamaru seems to be confused about Amado bringing this person into Konoha. Amado briefly explains that Damon is Ida's brother and will tell him more information when they arrive in Konoha. Amado also questions Shikamaru and informs him that accepting Ida would also mean accepting Damon. You cannot separate the two. Shikamaru says, wait a minute, Amado, you have no authority to just do whatever you want to. So I wonder if this is going to become like a little bit of an issue as well. There's a chance, but I think Shikamaru is going to eventually cave in thanks to Naruto. Amado reminds Shikamaru that in this situation, no one has a higher authority than Ida, implying that she holds all the cards in her hands. She can either help or destroy Konoha depending on Shikamaru's answer. Which, is very true. She has a pretty OP ability, and with Damon around, I don't think they'd be able to beat him right now. Amado further states that Ida is the only who has the authority in this situation. Shikamaru in frustration starts to blame Amado for even initiating all of this in the first place. Amado suggests that it's best not to make enemies with these siblings. The only thing I'm sure is that it would be better if you didn't turn them into an enemy. Amado continues to be the bearer of bad news. He informs Shikamaru that Code has gotten much stronger, as he had to free him from his limiters, which were put in place to contain his overflowing strength. Amado then suggests Shikamaru to look at the bright side. Yes, Code is stronger, but it is also more important that on the other hand, he lost Ida as an enemy force. This is a fatal reduction in power. And that's true, having them on the village's side would help a lot against Code, I believe. Amado ends the conversation from his side by telling Shikamaru to handle the situation. He states, you're good at handling things, aren't you? You do the rest, it will be fine. Let's see. So it says this part here is an expression which in my understanding is something more of a cultural expression, in the sense that Amado is sure that Shikamaru can handle this kind of situation, as he must have dealt with worse. So pretty much that's just, more of a comprehension thing, because maybe in the official chapter it could be taken a different way, perhaps. So moving on to the next part. Shikamaru also signs off by telling Amado and others, referring to Ida and Damon, to get back to Konoha as soon as possible because he has a lot more questions he needs to ask. As Amado hangs up the phone, Ida questions him about this figure of speech Amado used when talking to Shikamaru. Ida then reminds Amado that she doesn't care about what Amado wants. She reiterates the fact that the only reason she is even considering moving to Konoha is because Amado made a promise to help her get closer to Kawaki. Ida says, you've got to help me and Kawaki get along, and if things don't work out, I am going to kill you. Ida continues to make threats towards Amado. So she's pretty dead set on this. I actually am interested to see how their first interaction is going to go. Ida says, what's so obvious about that wish? I'm so angry with you for giving me this ability to romantically enslave all of the humanity. I wish I could kill you right now. As Ida mentions the word kill, Damon jumps into conversation and says, just for the record, as for my older sister's killing, I'm the one who will actually do it. Just in case. And all that is from Damon and from the entire chapter, so that's all he says, I guess. The scene switches back to Shikamaru, and as soon as he ends the call with Amado, he calls an emergency meeting. He demands the presence of Naruto and Team 7, including Kawaki. Okay, so this is where that connects into the chapter, and I was wondering how Team 7 gets involved, because they were shown in some of the leaked panels, so I guess that's how that happens. The scene switches to Boruto's room. We see him get ready for the mission. He puts on his headband, the same one Sasuke gave him. As he begins to leave his room, he touches his chest mark, but no dialogue is written. Boruto comes downstairs and starts putting on his shoes. And just as he's about to leave, Hinata calls his name and asks him about the mission. Boruto says, "Oh, the old man Shikamaru just called me up." From now, Hinata is responding. She visibly seems upset and constantly worries about Boruto's safety as he goes on these missions. Hinata begins to shed tears in front of Boruto. "I sometimes wonder if you'll never come back again. Every time you go out somewhere, I can't help but think that." She is speaking again to Boruto as she is crying, so her dialogues are broken, conveying her sad emotion. It's as if someone is trying to speak while crying. As Hinata conveys her worries for Boruto's safety, Himawari is seen to be standing in the background listening to the conversation, but does not say anything. Boruto says, "I don't know the details of the mission, but it's something only Team 7 can do. But we have no choice but to go for it, right?" He further adds, "I'm a tough guy. I mean, I really died once, and yet here I am, back to life and healthy as ever. No matter what happens, I'll definitely come back." Hinata says, "Be careful." Okay, so just because this is a scene, right, where he's making a promise like this, I think maybe now he may not come back from this mission perhaps, and maybe for the time skip period that might be happening after this arc, or after whatever they decide to do from here, whether it's in a chapter or two, or whether we get another full arc. I think maybe there's a chance that Boruto goes away for the time skip period, perhaps, and this promise to Hinata maybe gets broken there. That's what I'm thinking, at least. So moving on to the final part of part 1 of the summary, then there will be part 2. Boruto exits the house. Just then he senses that something is wrong, and as he turns around he sees Momoshiki standing in front of him. The atmosphere changes similarly to when Momoshiki appeared in chapter 67. Cloud-like wind begins to whirl around Boruto and Momoshiki, suggesting that time has stopped and it's only the two of them. Boruto says, "Momoshiki." It seems like Momoshiki wishes to speak to Boruto about making false promises to Hinata, saying that he'll be back. Momoshiki quoting Boruto, "I promise I'll be back." Boruto confidently confronts Momoshiki and says, "You can't reincarnate anymore, can you? So how long do you plan on following me around, Momoshiki?" Momoshiki says, "On the other hand, I ask you, little boy, how long do you plan on sticking to this meaningless life, knowing that your future is full of despair?" Boruto says, "What?" Momoshiki repeats what he told Boruto earlier about his destiny. "I told you long ago that you would lose everything, and that too soon." Boruto looks at Momoshiki in a very frustrated manner, but Momoshiki continues to speak and says, "Before you despair, you will lose the will to live and would want to run away from this world. Don't you understand? At the end, I'll take your life, and I'll take your place and live life like Uzumaki Boruto." So it seems like Momoshiki still has his evil intentions of somehow taking over, and it also seems like this could be some more foreshadowing, especially the run away from the world part, that maybe Boruto's gonna run away from the village perhaps for this time skip period. It's definitely a possibility. Boruto continues to look at Momoshiki in a frustrated manner, but Momoshiki keeps on telling Boruto what's gonna happen. "Don't worry about it. You will just stay holed up in the corner of your mind and everything will be fine. Reincarnation and such is no longer a problem. If I can monopolize the body, it's the same thing." Momoshiki says, "That will happen in the near future in whatever form it takes. You are only a vessel for me." It seems like Boruto has had enough of Momoshiki's talk. He replies back in frustration, "If you just shut up and listen to me, you bastard, I don't want to hear this shit anymore. I'd rather die than give my body to you." So it seems like Boruto is like super fed up now, tired of hearing this crap from Momoshiki, and he just wants no part of it anymore. After Boruto vents out his frustration, Momoshiki makes one final remark to Boruto. "Say what you like, your destiny's already decided. I'm looking forward to it, Uzumaki Boruto." So, a lot of the rambling that we got earlier, but he's just reiterating it to Boruto over and over so that it's in his head, and it reminds us as the audience that something bad is still to come. Momoshiki then begins to disappear. We see a similar disappearance effect being used as the one used by the Akatsuki when they used to communicate via thought waves. As Momoshiki disappears, Boruto felt like he could finally move. The cloud-like effect began to disappear, and Boruto rushes towards where Momoshiki was standing and says, "Wait for me, you bastard." Boruto, unable to harm Momoshiki, stands there in frustration. Just then, Mitsuki and Sarada appear behind Boruto. So moving on now to part 2. I already know this video is probably already like 15 minutes or something, so I'm going to try to read this part or this portion of it faster, just so this doesn't turn out to be like a 40-minute, 35-minute video. It may still hit like 30 minutes, but let's see if I can cut it down a bit. Sarada and Mitsuki can be seen in their regular mission-ready attire. Mitsuki stands a foot behind Sarada, and Sarada a foot ahead of Mitsuki. Mitsuki says, "Oh, it looks like you're ready to go." Sarada says, "It's been a while since I've been on a mission, so I'm a little excited, you know." Sarada at this stage senses something wrong with Boruto and questions Boruto. She says, "Boruto?" Boruto lashes out and vents out his pent-up frustration. "Don't talk nonsense. I'm the one who decides my future." Sarada is taken a step back and gets slightly scared of what just happened. She says, "What's wrong with you? I mean, you are different from your normal." Boruto takes a massive leap in the air towards the Hokage's office, leaving Sarada and Mitsuki behind. Meanwhile, Mitsuki remains calm and sort of understood Boruto. He says, even if he dies once more and gets turned into Otsutsuki, he will just maybe still be Boruto. The scene switches to Himawari, who seems worried about the conversation Hinata and Boruto just had. She asks Hinata that if she were to become a ninja to help Boruto, would Hinata be worried? I also like this. I didn't even know this was going to be part of the chapter, but I really like that because in the anime, it seems like they're working towards Himawari becoming a ninja. And, you know, right on time in the manga, we're getting this brought up too, so I like that. The scene switches back to Boruto heading towards the Hokage's office. He looks at the karma on his palm and says, "I won't let you do what you want, Momoshiki." Mitsuki and Sarada are seen following behind Boruto, and all three are heading towards the Hokage's office. The scene switches to Code entering the dimension with Bug, the dimension which is housing the Ten Tails. Code entered through Ishiki's plate. It seems like he had already marked it, allowing him to easily access the dimension. Note that Code's marking is actually visible in Boruto Chapter 35, page 16, if you want to go back and look at that. Code begins to walk towards the Ten Tails. Meanwhile, Bug is still shocked, as he has never heard or seen this place before. What is this place? Code explains to Bug that this dimension is only accessible using space-time ninjutsu, but Jigen used to travel back and forth and would often bring Code along due to his claw mark teleportation technique. He said the place can only be entered by those with time-space ninjutsu, but I am an exception. I am coming and going using the claw marks. I left it here when I was brought here once by Jigen. Code looks at the Ten Tails and says, "Good job. You are being a good boy." So, here we are, the Ten Tails plot begins, and now that Sasuke doesn't have his Rinnegan, he can't really interfere in this matter either. Otherwise, I guess people could always wonder, why isn't Sasuke finding this dimension? Again, after he'd already seen it in that Ishiki arc. Meanwhile, Bug is even more surprised to see a living and breathing Ten Tails beast, because until now he had only heard or read about the Ten Tails. Bug says, "So this is the Ten Tails beast I've heard of so much, the one who wants to feed on the Hokage's son?" Code then mentions that Sasuke Uchiha is the only other person who can access this dimension. However, that will no longer be an issue. He also mentions that Boruto and Kawaki are now full Otsutsukis and may soon be able to use space-time ninjutsu. They may be able to freely manipulate space-time ninjutsu at some point, in which case this place wouldn't be safe anymore. So that is a valid point. That did slip my mind a little bit when I was talking about Sasuke a minute or two ago. These two also have that space-time ninjutsu, and eventually I think they will learn it, and I think Code wants to put a plan into motion before that happens. Bug asks Code what he plans on doing now. He has been ostracized by Ida and Damon, and so essentially he is all alone. How does he plan on getting his revenge now? Bug even goes further to mention that even after releasing Code's limiters, he still got beaten up by Damon. Code says, "I didn't expect Damon to be that strong." Bug tells Code that he tried to stop the fight, but it was too late. Code says This is still a shock from the breakup, huh? Bug says, yeah, I think so. Code says, don't blame yourself for what happened. Bug then asks Code how he can remain so calm in a situation like this. Code says, it's going well, so it's decided then. Code then suggests to resize the 10 tails into a manageable and useful size. Code says, first of all, we need to adjust the 10 tails into a manageable size. Bug is confused as to what Code means by adjust. And this is leading up to another big point that was leaked in the manga that I discussed earlier. Let's get to it. Meanwhile, Bug is even more surprised to see a living and breathing 10 tails beast, because now he had only heard or read of the 10 tails. Bug says, so this is the 10 tails beast I've heard of so much. I think I read this already. Maybe this is a repeat or change, because the first part of this is something I already read. Maybe the ending is yeah, right here. Suddenly we see a half-page shot of the 10 tails slowly being covered in Code's belt or claw marks. The mark slowly begins to spread across the entire body of the 10 tails. On page 32 we see the 10 tails being completely covered in the... oh, I read that again. In the... oh, maybe they repeated that again. Yeah, on page 32 we seen that the 10 tails being completely covered in Code's claw marks. Bug is just viewing the spectacle of 10 tails being squeezed and resized by Code. It's important to note that by resizing, Code is essentially shrinking the 10 tails by distributing its chakra and splitting it into smaller pieces, making an army of soldiers who all possess 10 tails chakra. These soldiers will be more than human size, similar to the white Zetsu type soldiers who we saw in Naruto. Code says, I made it by mixing my chakra with a little bit of iron in my blood. Code overlooks the 10 tails covered in claw marks and mentions that a feat that would have been impossible in the past, but now I can produce enough to envelop this giant body in one go. So it seems like, you know, getting the limiters removed is giving him the ability to do this after all. So now we're at the end of the summary, last part over here. As the claw marks begin to squeeze the 10 tails, you can see a Play-Doh type material coming out. It's as if something's being molded using clay. Code says, like I said, it's small, useful, and adjustable. And that's the reference to the title. As Code says this, more and more clay / Play-Doh type material begins to detach from the 10 tails. Bug says, as that thorn thing grows, is the main body getting smaller? Code says, yeah, the 10 tails is essentially a huge chunk of chakra, which means it's like breaking a piece of crushed clay. In this way it will split. As Code and Bug exchange dialogues, the claw marks continue to squeeze the 10 tails, resulting in the 10 tails chakra being split into smaller pieces. Bug says, what's going to happen now? The small pieces, which have already broken off the 10 tails, can all be seen on the floor. Both Code and Bug wait in anticipation to see what happens next. Bug begins to notice that the fallen off pieces are beginning to take a certain shape, and some are even standing. We see a clear shot of one of these creatures almost staring directly at the audience, but with no eyes. It seems as if every creature is covered in Code's claw marks in one way or another. Some claw marks on their head, but in different patterns and shapes. This reiterates the point Code made earlier, that when covering the 10 tails with his claw marks, he was mixing his own chakra in the process. So based off this, at least, it's sounding like they have different designs, even if it's by a little bit, which I think is good. You don't want, you know, all of them looking the same. At least that's how I'm interpreting this. Hopefully they don't look the same, and they look a little different, because I think it would be kind of lame if all of them, you know, are super strong, but they all look the same. One of the creatures directly jumps into another creature's chest, where there is a claw mark. He reappears behind Code and Bug, clearly demonstrating that these creatures can use each other's body to travel from one place to another. That could be pretty crazy, especially for gathering info. Code tries to control the creature by covering his left eye with his right hand, essentially teleporting his eye to them to use it from the creature's body. The creature can then be seen with one eye on the right hand side of his face. We get a full body shot of the creature staring directly at the audience, giving off an extremely menacing look. Code says it's much more useful and smaller than the Jubi. Chapter ends. So that's where it seems like we're going to end off on. Next month in chapter 73, we're probably going to see a little bit more with Code, I'm assuming, and I'm sure we're going to see Amado and them maybe arrive, or maybe Team 7 might be sent to escort them. I don't know what exactly they're going to do, but at the least we should be getting that conversation, at least, in the Hokage's office involving Team 7, including Kawaki, along with Naruto and Shikamaru, and who knows, maybe Sasuke will show up as well. But the side text for the next episode says, the power structure has changed. Even if it becomes a lone force, it advances into a foolishness revenge with the power of code liberated. Chapter 73 releases on September 20th, 2022. And that wraps up the full spoilers. I am going to wrap up the video in a second. One thing I want to say though is, do you guys think this means maybe we're going to be getting a 5th Great Shinobi War perhaps? Or are we going to be getting another, you think we're going to get an arc at all before the time skip? Or do you think the time skip is near? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm personally thinking some point down the line in Boruto, we are going to get a 5th Great Ninja War. And I think that we're also going to get another arc before the time skip. But that's where I stand with all that. Let me know what you think of all of this in the comments below. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like. And subscribe to my channel if you guys are new. Especially if you guys are a fan of the Boruto series. I try my best to be on top of spoilers for both the manga and the anime at all times, whenever I can. And that's going to be it for this one. Hope you guys have a good day or night whenever you guys are watching this video. I'm Rewinds, and I'm out.